Okay, just a real quick highlight this morning of Cindy Landis, traditional business owner from North Carolina. Some of you heard her story about a week ago. She was at one point the largest real estate broker in Columbus, Ohio, had 167 agents working directly for her. She ended up shutting it down and going full time in network marketing, although her and her husband both make a $500,000 a year plus in their traditional businesses. So they like network marketing is in addition to what they do in their real lives. She actually studied businesses, but what I'm going to do is highlight because Cindy and I met last night in Bowling Green, Kentucky for her new group. And we had about 30 at lunch and about 50 plus last night. So maybe about 80 people yesterday. But but when people see pictures on social media that we post, you'll think that we just went to town and everybody that were great inviters and everybody just showed up randomly. And that's not the way this business works. I say everything you ever see is by design. So we're going to walk through about 2 months that led to last night. It's going to take long, but Cindy, you initially picked up the phone and made a direct approach to a guy named RT. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am very much into active recruiting. So I have a list, and he was on my list. Big business guy. Called him, asked if we could meet over a cup of coffee, and we did. And it took about two more meetings. He was intrigued the first meeting, so he wasn't a no, but he wasn't a solid yes on the first meeting. And then I went to his house and met with him. So it was a couple weeks there worth of meetings. And then
When was that, Cindy? When was that meeting? When did you sign RT up?
that was about 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, I guess, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then RT ended up after follow up, as you just heard her say, she met him at a coffee shop, went to his house. Like it wasn't just, hey, I'll join you. Like there's a process. There's emotional capital. There's follow up involved. There's not getting upset. They didn't join on the spot. There's the courage to make the phone call in the first place because RT is a very wealthy guy, owns a big business already. So a lot of little things there that stops some of us sometimes, but she overcame it all. RT gets involved. And then RT starts recruiting. And tell us tell us your onboarding with him because he's not going to be probably a twice a day poster, but he's a direct approacher. And tell us kind of how that recruiting started and how it led to Luke and what that first meeting was.
So I just told him, put me in front of key people, and I will do the presentation and things like that. So one of the very first people he put me on the phone with was a guy who he said, I think he has relatives that are in the industry. Well, when I started talking to him, I realized he was more than a relative in it. He was a seven-figure earner himself in the industry. So, but RT didn't even realize that. So he just knew the guy was connected. And so that led to me reaching out to Todd saying, hey, I've talked to this guy a couple times, but why don't you hop on the phone? So it was just that's the third party, let's get him somebody in the upline to talk to. So I connected him to you, Todd.
And then there's a secret I always keep in my back pocket. And that is when I get on a Zoom or a phone call with somebody that I feel could be really good, I'm going to see them in person because there's no matter like it's the reason I'm kind of against automation most of the time. Not all of the time, it's an asset, but most of the time you can't build relationships. If I can get somebody face to face, shake their hand, build a relationship, become a friend, find out needs in their life, I can generally get them involved. If I got 15 minutes on a Zoom and it's a really high caliber business person or somebody that's had a lot of experience in the industry, 15 minutes is not enough. There's a lot more going to have to go into that. So when we got introduced to Luke and I realized who he was, what he knew, his communication skills were good. I said to Luke, same thing I said to a guy named Pete in Las Vegas. I said, by the way, I'm going to be in Nashville next week. I was not going to be in Nashville next week, but that's where he was, and I needed to be there, so I was going to be in Nashville next week. I said I'm going to be there for a few days. What morning would you have about 30 minutes free to meet for coffee? He gave me Wednesday morning, so I showed up in Nashville on Tuesday night. We met for coffee that day. It went really good. And we set up to meet again the next day. So I extended my stay one more day and I met with him again the next day for about an hour and a half. And that's where I really got to know him as a human being and found out some real needs in his life. and showed him how we can meet those needs, and that this company was very different than the company that went away from him, that he built earlier on in his life. And then, Cindy, after that, you did what? I think you invited him to your house for 3 days in Charlotte.
Yes, he came and learned the comp plan. You know, we just went over everything. We did a handful of Zooms, and he committed to getting in and getting started. And then basically we put a plan together, and he started connecting me to his people
Via Zooms, I'm
there.
assuming, three-way calls?
Yes, three-way calls and Zooms. And then those who already had experience did the same thing, three-way calls and Zooms with me, because Luke didn't really know the answers yet. And I connected them to you when it was someone big enough I felt like they needed one step above me. So
So there's
my
some
upline.
names we're not going to mention by name, but we did connect with a few more people. Some of those people we then invited to Utah, helped them with a little bit. Some people may have been helped with expenses a little bit. We got them in front of the owners, got them in front of Katie to build belief. And then we set a date, because a lot of these guys are from the area of North Nashville into Bowling Green, Kentucky. So we set a date of last night, a little while back, that we would come spend the entirety of the day. They could have us all day from lunchtime forward. And they did a lunch meeting. Then we met with them and leaders throughout the afternoon. We went to a med spa and got this lady all fired up, got her 30 pack. And then that evening we had last night about 50 people at the meeting. But all the 50 people, I think there was maybe 4 people when I asked who was there for the very first time and did not know what they were there for. There was maybe 4 in the room that raised their hands. So if we had just set the date to go do the meeting, we'd had 4 people last night. But Cindy and Luke and these other people were all doing Zooms and three-ways nonstop the last 4 weeks. And then we were building belief, we were doing everything, and then it all culminated last night in the pictures you'll see on social media. And I wanted to walk everybody through that, because what the normal person will do will like, oh, it must be easy in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Everybody just shows up when they get invited. Everybody just wants to do it up there. I need to move to Kentucky. No, it's everybody's the same everywhere. All the objections are the same everywhere. All the issues are the same everywhere. All the lack of time is everywhere. All the lack of income in the bank account to sign up is everywhere. It's your skill set of one by one by one. Because I get asked all the time, how do you get the big money? One person at a time. Get really good at it. And if you can get good at one person at a time, you'll all of a sudden have 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. And then all of a sudden that'll turn into the bigger meetings. Anything you want to add there, Cindy? And we'll turn it over to our moderator.
No, I just use your upline. Don't be afraid to actively recruit, because that's what these guys are doing as well. We're actively building teams, and then also using the passive system of growth. So it's a combination of things. Just don't leave out the active recruiting. That's
Yeah,
all.
so we got to do like for the ones on this call that really want to get to the bigger money, you got to do both. Like the passive system of posting twice a day is the biggest miracle I've ever seen in network marketing. But you also need a direct approach. So a lot of times groups do one or the other. So I'll come into especially women heavy groups, and all they're ever doing is posting twice a day, and some of them are not even good at converting those customers. And then they call me 4 or 5 months in and wonder why their business isn't growing. I'm like, because we aren't converting customers to brand partners. So we got and then the flip side of it, these guys, they had not even really started the posting yet. They were just all on the phone, calling people, setting up times to show people a business model, residual income, more extra secondary incomes, talk about a couple of products that they love already. Matter of fact, Luke's dad had already lost 30 pounds when we got there last night in his first 2 months. So he's the first local success story. He nailed it from the front of the room. His name is Dwayne. Dwayne, if you're here, that was an awesome job last night. So we got the local story. But what we did last night, since they're all direct approachers, is we trained in the twice a day posting for the first time. And we said, listen, Luke and some of these other guys, they may not be your best twice a day posters, but there were last night we had some newbies in the industry and some women in the room that will be great posters. So you got to do both. You got to train both, and then everybody will kind of navigate most of their time into the areas they feel most comfortable at. So thank you, Cindy, for all that. Anything you want to close out, and we'll turn it back to you,
Nope,
Sarah.
just thanks, Todd. Appreciate you.